Broncos Raiders on Thursday Night Football. If I had to sum up this game, I would sum it up as absolute hot garbage. This game was absolutely terrible. I mean, there's from entertainment value, not being able to properly consume primetime games because of the ESPN discourse on Monday Night Football. And just this was terrible. Bo Nix and the Broncos, we know the story of them all season. My takeaway from this game was, are the Broncos threats in the AFC? My answer to that is no. I don't foresee Denver going on a deep playoff run. Because Bo Nix and the Broncos really remind me of the AFC version of the Green Bay Packers. Bo Nix and Jordan Love are two young quarterbacks who both have a ceiling of being able to compete at the highest level and potentially win a Super Bowl because everything around them is great. You have a phenomenal defense. You have talent at the wide receiver position. Got a pretty decent run game. And you got a good head coach. Great management. You're number one in your division. All of these things. But the primary difference, though, between the Broncos and the Packers is the Broncos in their division have a team in the Kansas City Chiefs who have been to 5 of the last 6 Super Bowls and won 3 of them. You have that going on in your own division. They have a championship defense. There is no question about that. But the question right now, when it comes to the Broncos, is the offense's consistency. We saw it last night on display with Bo Nix. Did you guys know that the Broncos had more penalties than first downs last night as a team? That's absolutely wild stat. Overall first downs, both the Raiders and the Broncos had 10. But the Broncos had 11 penalties for 78 yards. The Broncos, and this is credit to Geno Smith and the offense, they started the first half with majority of their drives being inside the 10-yard line, on their own 10-yard line. And they couldn't move the ball at the field. They kept giving up the Raiders great field position. If it wasn't for the Raiders being absolutely non-existent on offense, this game could have got ugly if it was any other opponent on the other side of the line of scrimmage facing off against the Denver Broncos offense. Because they were bad yesterday. Bo Nix was 16 for 28, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, a quarterback rating of 27, and a passer rating of 54. They were somewhat able to run the ball. But Bo Nix, he was not on time. Throws were late. Wasn't really accurate in some situations. Wasn't reading the field well. Sean Payton didn't do a great job calling plays. At one point in the second half, Sean Payton was trying to get cute. And it was 3rd and 1. All you had to do was just run the ball and get a first down. He decides to run this wide receiver screen that was supposed to turn into a pass. Cortland Sutton at some point was supposed to pass the ball. That play was absolutely abysmal. But of course, the defense showed up yesterday. They were able to get to Geno Smith. Geno Smith eventually was hurt during the game. And they were able to wreak havoc. And that is what ideally the Denver Broncos are going to do. Their identity right now, which I don't like their identity and the identity that they're trying to have. Their identity is, we are going to play good defense, play inconsistent offense, and turn up in the fourth quarter. But sadly, yesterday, the Broncos were not able to turn up in the fourth quarter. They played very mediocre football from the first quarter all the way to the end of the game. And again, if it wasn't for the Raiders being so anemic on offense, if it was any other team, the Broncos, this would have been absolutely embarrassing. And in the end, I cannot trust Bo Nix. I want to believe in him. In the same case with Jordan Love, I believe that one day Bo Nix and Sean Payton together will be in an AFC Championship game. They're 8-2 right now. They're in an argument for the number 1 seed right now in the AFC playoff picture. But going into the playoffs, it's about consistency. It's about complementary football. The Denver Broncos are not playing that. They're playing okay special teams, and that's another aspect that was terrible last night as well. That punter was absolutely awful. Awful. He couldn't even punt the ball good last night. He shanked like 3 in a row. We had that. You play great defense. But offensively, you could not move the football up the field. You had more penalties than first downs as an offense. Not saying they had 11 offensive penalties, but just penalties in general. You had more penalties than you had offensive first downs. That is a recipe for a disaster, and that is the reason why, me personally, I do not foresee the Denver Broncos making a super deep playoff run. Now, let's move to the other side of the spectrum. Let's talk about the Raiders. The Las Vegas Raiders are just bad. They're not a good ball club. I feel bad for Pete Carroll. You know, it's been a pretty rough year. A lot of highs and lows. You traded for Geno Smith thinking that he was going to capture some of the same energy that he had in Seattle. That does not seem to be the case. Geno Smith's been pretty bad this year. I think going into last night, he was tied with interceptions going into that game. He's top 3 in throwing interceptions and just turning the ball over. They lost a heartbreaker last week to the Jaguars. You know, Pete Carroll made the aggressive move going for a 2-point conversion instead of wanting to tie the game. I respect it. And it didn't end up going their way. But they're just bad. Defensively, they played their butts off. I mean, the defense single-handedly were the only reason why the the Las Vegas Raiders, were even had a chance in this game. Because even in the fourth quarter, we know how streaky that the Broncos can be in the fourth quarter offensively, but the Raiders still shut that down. And they had a pretty phenomenal day. Geno Smith, 16 for 26, 143 yards, 1 interception, which was not his fault. Genty, the ball popped off his hands up in the air, and that was an interception. But they got no production. Tyler Lockett only caught 5 balls. Brock Bowers caught 1 pass for 31 yards. Trey Tucker caught 2 balls. Ashton Genty, he was able to run the football decently. He got a touchdown, averaged 3.2 yards a carry. Not the best, but it's okay. But the offense continues to be underwhelming. Geno Smith, again, was playing hurt last night, so you can't 100% blame it on Geno last night. It's just there were a lot of miscues. The Raiders had a lot of penalties that negated some big plays. There were a couple, I think there was like 3 big plays that the Raiders had that got called back because of holding penalties. That's the definition of a bad football team. You can't score. You can't run the football. You got one side of the ball is good that night. But guess what? You get penalties. Can't get first downs. Can't score. Can't play good special teams. They missed a field goal last night. And that is a recipe for a bad ball team. Overall, last night was pretty abysmal across all fronts. And what I took away from that game is that the Raiders are bad, and they got a lot to fix going in next year. Hopefully they can get some free agents and things of that nature. But again, I don't foresee the Denver Broncos, unless they do some type of drastic change on offense. I do not foresee this team, the Denver Broncos, having a deep playoff run.